America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Hannah. Please let the record show that all governing board members are present tonight, as is Dr. Lewis, members of cabinet. And that takes me to the welcome statement. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting and remind the audience of the request to address board cards that must be completed and submitted to the board secretary if they wish to speak to an agenda item. Board policy provides for 2 cards, white cards to be submitted in order to speak to an agenda item, and blue cards to be submitted in order to speak during public comments. Policy also states there is a 5-minute maximum time limit per speaker. Due to the open meeting law, board members are not allowed to address items that are not on the agenda. If you do not want to address the board but wish to give your comments in writing, you can do so on a goldenrod sheet, and all members will receive a copy. And that brings us to approval of agenda.
Move the governing board approve the agenda as presented.
I second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, that brings us to item 3A, the reorganization of the governing board and election for president. And I'd like to just say a few things about my presidency. I feel incredibly privileged to have been elected to serve as president of Creighton for the past 2 years. And while board work can be demanding, it is also very satisfying. When I can see positive results that our board can accomplish when we work together, that young idealist that propelled me into public service in the first place understands just how important the local school board is. More and more, a community's local school board meeting really is the heart of that community, as well as the very foundation of democracy. And 2 years as president has given me a sense of professional purpose that I don't necessarily experience in all of my various roles in education. As a public servant, I learned early on the importance of leading with my values, and what I've come to understand is that everything we endeavor to do must be done with the idea of maintaining human dignity. No person's bank account or zip code should determine the level of dignity that they are allowed to experience. And it is for this reason that our board, who I brag about to everyone who will listen, explicitly agrees to ground all that we do with the value of equity in mind. We believe so strongly in this notion of grounding all we do with equity in mind that we are continually reflecting on how we can improve as a board, attending relevant professional growth opportunities about board self-reflection, evaluation, superintendent relations, and even designing a set of expectations that we will all do our best to adhere to. While every member of this board demonstrates every single day how grounded their work is in equity, there is one who stands out and who has come to represent the heart of the board and her community in many ways. Beginning with a career in the military, becoming an advocate for individuals with developmental disabilities, working with CPS, and now her public service to the Creighton and Homestead communities, Donna Young has proven again and again that she leads with her values. She takes on the role of historian because she realizes how important it is to remember that many times throughout our history, we must lead with our conscience. And when I say conscience, I speak of the resolution that Donna helped us create as a board. Ms. Young realizes it is our duty to remember that it is the public servant who commits to be an advocate for basic human dignity, especially in times where terms like homeless children become normalized and represent budget cuts and state-level mandates, funded or otherwise, that fall at the feet of the public schools. Donna Young has proven time and again that she is a committed public servant, and it is with great enthusiasm that I would like to nominate her as president of the 2018 Creighton School District Governing Board. I move the governing board nominate Donna Young as president of the Creighton Board for 2018.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
I'd love to hear first if Donna accepts the
Oh,
nomination.
yes, I suppose I should.
What she would bring as the president, so we have more information on which to vote.
Yes, I'd love to accept the nomination. I hope to represent Jamie's words that are so glowing. Thank you so much. basically I would continue with equity being a prime movement with the board. But as you said once, Carl, I'm only one member of the board.
I have a question for you, Ms. Young, which is, I feel like, I don't like to make assumptions. So, for the last 3 years, we together crafted a certain set of expectations. We've struggled to live into those, and I think we're much better at that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on our board expectations, if that's would be a guiding document for your leadership, so that or would we be starting with a new set? I'd love to hear your thoughts on our board
I
expectations.
believe in the board expectations as written. I would not go into trying to change them. If the board as a whole in the future, if something comes up and we wish to modify or add to, I would be open to it if the board is open to it. But basically, the expectations as stand.
Thank you.
I have just a few questions, I guess, and concerns myself. I feel like we've made some progress in the last year, but I feel like next year is going to be extremely challenging. I'm actually a little concerned about the word equity and how we throw it around. I believe there is a crisis happening at Biltmore Prep and that we as a board are ignoring it. That is the perception that is happening out there right now. You've heard from some parents, they've got no response. You've not heard from some other parents who are talking recall. So I just want you guys to know that is a concern I have, and I want whomever is going to become president to be aware that Biltmore has issues, as well as every other school in this district, and I actually think it's a systematic problem with our middle school. If you look at our benchmarks, that cannot be ignored. And this is a crisis, it really is. We have an election year next year. We may have overrides on the ballot. We have 2 huge construction projects, complicated construction projects happening. I am concerned about leadership of this board, so.
I believe there's still a motion. I made a motion, I moved the governing board approve Donna Young as board president for 2018, and I believe
I second
Ms. Sexton seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Motion passes. And that will take us to item 3B.
That's for.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, please, let's switch seats right now, but I'm gonna have to take my, my iPad with me. No, just leave your charger there, Donna.
Thank you.
Wow, good evening. Okay, we are on reorganization 3B, election of governing board clerk for 2018. Any motions to entertain?
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Ms. McSheffrey to continue in the role of board clerk. I know from her years of involvement beyond even the school where she's been certainly attentive. She doesn't just focus on one school, she spends time touring all of our schools, spending time in our schools, volunteering. I know she's a strong advocate for parents. Clearly she is passionate about many of the concerns that we're facing, and with all of that and more, I would nominate Ms. McSheffrey. So I will move the governing board approve Ms. McSheffrey as governing board clerk.
I second.
Any other motions?
Discussion?
I mean,
Would you accept?
I do feel like it's a position in name only. I've done this for 2 years. I would like to see a gesture of some other leadership role, and I'm willing, obviously, to do extra work, but I don't want to just be clerk just to have the name. So I don't know if there are any thoughts on that, but I really don't wanna do it if it's just a name. I mean,
Well, but,
it's obviously not leading to any leadership positions on the board.
it says right here that the clerk of the governing board shall perform such duties as assigned by the governing board. So we could assign new duties.
We just haven't, I think.
Right, we haven't for 2 years, yeah, so.
What Amy's suggesting is that if she were to consider this, she's asking the board to put her to work, which we haven't done. I know she's asked in the past, so I think that's,
Do you have any ideas of some kind of duties that?
I don't, I actually,
Okay.
I'm gonna decline. Thank you.
Do we have any other motions? I'd like to nominate Jeannie Biston for clerk.
A second. Oh, does she approve, accept?
Would you accept?
I'd be happy to.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any? Motion passes. Public comments. Is there?
There's a blue card there.
There is a blue card. Okay. I think I can read it. If I mispronounce it, please excuse me. Kathy Hannafin? Hannafin?
Good evening, governing board members, Dr. Lewis, the rest of Creighton leadership. The reason I'm here tonight is because I was here in May. And in May, I brought up a number of quality issues with the Biltmore Prep Middle School. I actually had a list of opportunities for improvement that were not just created by me, but created by a group of Biltmore Prep middle school parents who met with Dr. Lauren during a couple of meetings last spring. At the end of my comments in May, I asked that this board have Biltmore Prep Middle School as an agenda item to address in an urgent manner. And 8 months later, that hasn't happened. And the issues still remain. And some of them much more serious. And so I'm not going to go into them again tonight, but I sent each of you an email that outlines some of those current issues and where we stand today. I'm glad to see that a future agenda item is the FLI program that's scheduled, I think, to be on the agenda next meeting on January 23rd. I think that is one of the issues, and it actually transcends a number of other issues. But I think it would be beneficial to look at the Biltmore Prep Middle School as a whole and look at the entire experience that the kids are receiving. I'm asking you again as a parent, as a community member, and as your constituent, to please take this seriously, to please look at the entire student experience, and ensure that they are receiving the academic preparedness and experience that they deserve and that they have the right to, quite honestly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And that brings us to superintendent report.
Well, good evening and Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the second half of our school year, where we're going to continue to take risks and design adventurous learning opportunities for all of our children. I want to note that last year we did not serve any meals over the holiday to our family, and this year we served 1,243 meals over the holidays. I would also like to talk a little bit about the fact that the governor did speak to the state of the state and present his proposed budget. Specifically, he outlined a 5-year phase-in model for district additional assistance, starting with $100 million potentially for this year for all schools across the district and getting back up to what was originally in the formula in the 5th year, which is closer to $360 million, almost $400 million. He's looking at putting the 1.06 that was put into teacher's salary as a one-time pay into the base. He's looking at funding inflation as the Constitution requires. And he's looking at ways to continue growth opportunities for all schools K-12. There's been some different critics and some different supporters, and again, this is just proposed. He specifically thanked governing board members and educational leaders for focusing in every way they could under these very slim times since the recession on doing everything we could to provide the raise to teachers that we could. So just want to acknowledge his frame and direction and treating education as one of his top priorities. I'd like to thank Jeannie Castine for her leadership as president and for the 2 years. Under the 2 years of leadership with Jeannie, the Arizona School Boards Association last year was a finalist for the All Arizona School Board Award, one of 4 in the whole state of Arizona. This year, the governing board was one of 4 finalists for the highest ASBA award, which is the Luella Kleins Award, which we were recognized at December's conference for. And the board received the Total Boardsman Award, which is honored in this plaque, so I will present it officially to Donna on behalf of the ASBA. And Carl, I know you weren't able to attend, so I know you're very pleased to receive this plaque that you get to go hang on your wall and celebrate. So, that was fun. Okay, in my second part, may I go on, Hilda, to the next page? Okay, I would like to ask the board to join me in congratulating officially Hannah Wysong, who's not only a wonderful science teacher at Mackin and a go-getter risk taker, because she goes out on a limb on everything. She speaks her mind and encourages kids to do the same, who is just recognized in the United States of America for being a nationally board certified teacher. So come on up here, Hannah, and let's get a flag. You're going to come up here and we're going to stand with you and you're going to...
Right here?
Yep, right here.
Okay, great.
Yep. You good with this, Emily? Okay. Let's go, Shetter.
Thank you.
And we'll put you in the middle.
Okay.
You're the star. Here we go. Okay. We brought flowers to her classroom in December, right? Yeah. You were talking to your kids actually about the work that it took to do it and the endurance it took. Why don't you go to the microphone and tell just a few minutes about what you did to do it, like what you taught the kids.
Okay. Well, I received my scores on the Saturday, and that following Monday when I came into my classroom, I dedicated 5 to 10 minutes to what I called show and tell for my students. And I had them, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all come on the front and sit on the floor. And I pulled up my bag and I showed them really the requirements, the rubrics, the instructions needed to be nationally board certified. There's 4 components involved. And I reminded the 8th graders last year, remember when we had people in here videoing our class and that was part of it. And I showed them my flashcards that I used to study for the national board exam. And I told them I studied for a month. And I went through 10 flashcards a day, and then I made my own flashcards, and then I did practice extended response questions, and I told them about this process for a year, and I said, it's not because I want them to clap for me, it's because I want them to understand that I know what hard work is as well, and I wanted them to see an example of, setting a goal and working towards that. And so I really appreciate the recognition. I think a lot of times teachers are thanked for their work, and I think fewer times we're recognized for our expertise. And so that's why I really appreciate this recognition tonight. Thank you.
I'm really proud of you. Hannah is also an an official comedian. And we're going to pull her up for the Welcome Back rally next year and encourage her to get us going. You ready? We'll be thinking about that for the next few months, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right. That concludes my remarks.
Now time for governing board reports.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. There's a couple things, since I was on the telephone at the last board meeting, I didn't get to talk about governing board permitting, just but in, I believe it was November, I had the opportunity to be at Creighton Elementary School for a citizenship forum, and actually had the opportunity to interpret Spanish, English, English, Spanish, actually did both ways, for people who came to the forum for citizenship. And then December, I was able to attend the Arizona School Board Association annual conference and attended workshops and sessions there, and of course our recognition for our all school board award. And then New Year's Eve, I had a special gift. This is more for you guys, maybe. But this is actually an opportunity anyone could have, I guess. I was riding my bike along the canal, getting some workout, exercise in, and a man was drowning in the water in the canal. Nobody was around, so I called 911 on my phone really quick, and then kind of pretty much got in the canal and held on to him for about 5 minutes until the police came and helped me pull him out. So that was a kind of, I call it a gift because it happened, I happened to be there at the right time at the right moment. And the policeman said, well, you saved his life, and I didn't really realize what was going on until he said that. And so anyway, that was my New Year's Eve gift, and the way to end the year. And then I also have a new opportunity, a new employment at the Attorney General's office. I'll be in the Civil Rights Division. I'll be starting next week. Yes. So that's my news.
Happy New Year, everyone. Maybe just an update on activities. When I campaigned for this position in 2014, I think my commitments were around building community, expanding excellence and equity. And so just even most recently, I've been thinking about this community piece and what does that mean. So I reached out and had some conversations with ASU Prep on opportunities to provide new digital learning for some of our kids. So we're exploring that. I'm not doing anything on behalf of the district. It was my own personal interest, and we'll see what Donna Lewis sees about that. I recognize some opportunities with some of the new restaurants because we already heard from our demographers and we can see what's happening in our communities, and I started to see some new restaurants and donut shops that are displaying student art. I'm like, how come our art isn't there? So anyway, these are the things I'm looking for. I know we have a lot of work on equity and excellence. I just think of where we've been in the last 10 years, and it's a steep climb, and the pace is never fast enough for parents, for educators too, I'm sure. But anyway, those are the things that have been on my mind, what I've been working on, and looking forward to hopefully stepping on the gas a little bit. Happy New Year.
Congratulations, Tom, on being president. As you know, we visited Loma Linda just before winter break. I want to thank Principal Pastor. I don't know if she's here, but like the day before winter break, so not an easy day for her, I'm sure. But it was a great visit. We got to know her a little bit more. We were able to visit with an 8th grade student at Loma Linda who was a delight, and I think a great profile of Creighton. She did give us lots of feedback, but one highlight for me was not enough time for lunch, people. We've heard this over and over again too. So I would, I know we have a time committee, but I keep hearing this. So, and we visited a first grade classroom. Learned a little about the teacher recruitment video that we're working on. I'm really excited to see that when it's finished. I think it'll be a great recruitment tool, maybe not just for teachers, but staff and possibly families as well. Actually, today I went down to the SOS thing at the Capitol, and that group and a lot of parents are extremely disappointed with the budget. And it's funny, I met some former BPA parents there who have left and gone to Madison Heights because they're not being listened to. They left 3 or 4 years ago. So it's a continual problem. But they felt like they're being listened to at Madison School District. So they're doing something different. And they're really pleased with that program. And they're going on to Madison One, which is, schooling our kids. So I thought that was interesting, but I hope to hear more from SOS this year, and I'm sure we will.
Thank you. Amy?
I'll wait until the ASBA report.
Okay. I was with Amy for the visit, and I agree with her with Melinda. It was delightful to talk to the 8th grader. I'd like to thank some people. Carolyn Benson, and she's the person that coordinates with Charles Schwab for our families on the Christmas presents. And she gets everything coordinated. She sits in there and wraps for a few days, like 3 or 4. And she does a wonderful job and then delivers the presents to our families, some of the families in the Creighton School District who are in need. Also, people do stop in during their lunch hours and wrap, and I think it's a great thing. It's fantastic. It wouldn't happen without Charles Schwab, and it probably wouldn't go as smoothly without Carolyn. So I want to thank both. Also, I'd like to thank James Diaz and the band members for filling sandbags for the Homesteads and the Luminaria nights. Dorothy showed up even in the morning. It was very nice. And I thank the band members for doing that. I'd like to put something in that's like a board report type thing, but we don't have a legislative report. As of 12/28, December 28th, the U.S. District Judge Tashima gave his final ruling that prohibits Arizona education officials from enforcing the 2010 law against Hispanic studies. Hispanic studies is now legal in the state of Arizona. I'm not saying we should go that way. I know other states have gone that way, primarily California, and had great results. Tucson had great results while they were doing it, Tucson Unified. So it's, if the school district or a school wishes to go that way, it is now an option. That's all I'm saying. The state has not decided if they're going to appeal. They have to talk to Diane Douglas and also figure out the calculation, is appeal worthwhile. But I think it's a great step forward that Hispanic studies are at least legal now in the state of Arizona. And that's all I have. ASBA, ASA 60, the conference, the reports. You didn't go, Jeannie?
We were invited to speak about the bilingual preschool and our partnership with Helios Foundation, ASU, and Osborne School District was there as well, with their superintendent, Dr. Michael Robert. So it was, I felt I felt like the other people who were on the panel with me really provided some great background information and just how the Helios Foundation as well as ASU supports these programs. I feel like we're in good company, and I felt like the presentation itself went really well, and I enjoyed very much being able to have an opportunity to once again brag about the good work that this board and this district is doing. So thank you for that opportunity. Additionally, we were able to attend the awards dinner where, as Dr. Lewis mentioned before, We were awarded the Total Board Award, and we were nominated for the Ezra Klein, right? Llewellyn Klein, yes. Llewellyn Klein Award. Unfortunately, we missed it by that much, but it was still, we were in, again, very, very good company, really good program, strong boards, and we should feel good about the work that we do. So thank you for the opportunity.
I had a couple highlights. I visited Volunteer in Paradise, a Paradise Valley volunteer program. I've gone to many of these sessions, and they have an amazing program. They have a partnership with Paradise Valley Community College. That's where they get some of their volunteers from, student teachers. I have lots of information I would like to share with you, Dr. Lewis. I don't think you were part of that session, but it's worth every penny and every minute that they spend on it. So I hope that's something we can, find a resource and time to look into further. And another thing was a leadership academy for district leadership, which again, I feel like I'll just talk with you about that directly, Dr. Lewis. We may have things like that going on, but it sounded extremely successful also. So.
I also was at the conference, and one of the highlights, besides sitting in the audience while Jeannie was presenting, which was a great breakout session, I went to a breakout session regarding refugees in the valley and schools, and it was interesting. I never thought about it, and it was Washington School District. They have a very high percentage of refugees in the valley. I never thought about it, and I always brag about our food program, the free lunches, the breakfasts, and the dinners, and how it's great and really helps those in need. And they were talking during the session that you got to think of the little things. And one of them was dietary restrictions for some of our refugees, religious dietary restrictions. And so I go, next time I met with Dr. Lewis, I checked our calendar of lunches and breakfasts, and I was very happy to see any type of meat that's presented to our children is labeled. Turkey hot dogs, beef, chicken. The meat is labeled, so you don't get unlabeled meat like hot dog. What is in a hot dog? It's told it's turkey, so the kids can eat it. And so I want to thank the food department for being so good and even thinking of the small things. And it really stuck out in my mind, and I enjoyed the conference very much. And thank you very much for doing that. And that's all I have. Do you want to talk
No, I'm good.
Okay, next item is approval of consent. Have a motion, please?
I move the governing board approve consent A through H in accordance with policy BEDR.
I second.
It's been moved in second. All that agree?
Aye.
Disagree? Motion passes. And that brings us to educational services. Abigail School presentation.
President Young, board members, executive committee, we are pleased to invite Principal Geyer and his team forward to share with you the happenings at Papago.
Well, we have a lot of Panthers here tonight, so we're going to introduce them to you. Madam President, members of the board, and the executive team, my name is Jeff Geyer. I'm the principal at Papago School. And representing Papago tonight is our assistant principal, Sylvia Earl. We also have students, parents, teachers back here, our instructional leadership team. And this presentation will give you an overview of the terrific things we're doing at Papago this year, as well as give you a chance to interact with some of our favorite learning devices. And this Google Slides portion is pretty brief. You'll have a chance to come forward and play with some of the devices that we use and get an idea of how we're building our coding and robotics signature program. Like other schools, Papago relies on the integrated action plan to provide an assessment of our needs and a structure for continuous improvement. Our site council has used the IAP to identify 5 key areas, which are the development and implementation of our vision, the development of restorative behavior practices, providing two-way communication and family engagement, ensuring effective instructional practices, and the development of our signature coding and robotics program. The Papago Vision, we developed this over the summer and into the beginning of the year this year. The Papago school community empowers all students to learn to their fullest potential and prepares them to succeed in an ever-changing world. And now Sylvia Earl will give you an update about our shifts in behavior and culture and effective instruction.
Based on the needs of our IEP, we have made the decision to make a huge shift in our philosophy and practices around behavior and culture at Papago. So our practices are focused on common restorative practices. So with the support of the site council teacher, we've been focusing on building teacher skills, building common practices school-wide, and also building community in the classroom. And moving on to effective instruction. In order to provide effective instruction in Papago, the grade level PLCs this year are focused on the idea of what students need to know and be able to do by deconstructing standards, just getting to know those academic standards at a deeper level. And so we focused on math during the first 2 quarters and have moved on to reading comprehension and writing for the 3rd and 4th quarters. The focus of our Wednesday professional development has been best first instruction, which included learning goals, task analysis, and student intellectual engagement. And that visual is just a sample of the next thing, which is each PD is followed by focused walkthroughs, and these provide teachers with quick feedback on their implementation of instructional strategies and serve as a data collection tool to plan for future PD. So here, this is just an example of what we're looking for and how we communicate with our teachers about what we're looking for and areas that they are glowing in and areas that we have some suggestions for growth.
So all of this manifests into improved achievement when we compare last year's benchmark achievement to this year. We've increased our classroom planning and support for 4th grade and have spent more time school-wide in planning and coaching support for mathematics. So when we compare last year's October benchmark to this year, we see a pretty good bump in almost all grade levels. We see an overall improvement in English language arts, and though our 5th grade was not at the level of last year's 5th grade, we do see a cohort jump from 10% passing in 4th grade to almost 30% passing in 5th grade. So we're very proud of the growth that the kids are showing. And to give you a more detailed perspective from the classroom, we have Ms. Casey Anastasio and one of her students, Julian Valdivinos. They want to come up and talk to you about specifically what's happening in the 5th grade.
Hi. So my team and I really decided in 5th grade that we wanted to focus on kind of 2 main things this year. And those 2 things were building confidence to improve our test scores, and then to really focus on creating kind-hearted leaders. We know that's part of our mission, and I think that's really important. So those are kind of the 2 main things we wanted to focus on this year. To start with our building our high expectations, or building confidence, we really wanted to set very high expectations for these kids, and I think that we have, and I think that they're really rising to those expectations. I think that growth in that last slide is just kind of, an example of where those kids are going to go. And one of the ways that we've done that is kind of to make friendly competitions between the classes. These kids really respond well to competition, and they kind of thrive on the competition. So we, during benchmark time, and as we continue through AZ Merit, we'll kind of really focus on, friendly competitions between the classrooms that really focus on the progress and the growth that is made, so that all the students can feel like they are contributing to these competitions, and it's not just the highest scores, to really encourage all the kids to make sure that they're helping their team or their classroom win these competitions. My class won the last one, so not that I'm competitive at all. And then our other thing with the kind-hearted leaders, which we think is really important, we really wanted to focus on character education and the whole idea of kindness first, like the idea of kindness. And we wanted to make this concrete for the kids, and we wanted to make it, more authentic than some of the other character education, programs. So we decided to use Wonder as a novel study. It's kind of the thing to do right now, and the kids have really, really responded well to it. And it's been really interesting to watch the kids. They're very reflective on their own behaviors and just kind of teaching the kids to choose kindness first. And hopefully we can continue that through the rest of the year. And I'm going to hand it over to Julian, and he's going to give you guys a perspective on how he's kind of changed from 4th to 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Julia Valdovinos. Last year I struggled a bit in 4th grade with behavior and grades. They were not where I wanted them to be, so this summer I decided to up my game. I came to 5th grade and the teachers taught me routines and how to set goals for myself. The teachers set high expectations, and that is what I strive for. I set goals for myself and pay attention more, and I love to work in table groups, helping others and getting help when I need help. I love reading the book Wonder because it helps me see and understand the kind of person I want to be. I want to keep getting better at parkour. Thank you.
Go to Tammy. I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Tammy Whitus. She is our parent perspective.
Hello, my name is Tammy Whitus. My daughter, Kirsten, she's a Papago 7th grader, and she's involved in a lot of the programs that Papago offers, such as Lego Robotics, National Junior Honor Society, Cheer, Student Council, just to name a few, which she absolutely loves. And it's really important to us because she was at a different school, and we brought her to Papago because it was like a community when I started working there, so we decided to move her over there. And now in the morning, she doesn't mind getting up to go to school. She loves to go to school. And it probably has a lot to do with all the events that they have, like Winter Festival, Field Day, Grandparents' Day. It kind of brings the community together because it allows us as parents to volunteer and get to know the people that my daughter interacts with every single day. So they become like a big family. That's what it feels like to me. There's a great group of teachers that care about all these kids, and they keep us parents involved and informed on what our kids are learning and doing, just with simple conferences or telephone calls, emails, and that's what I love most about Papago. Thank you.
So as you know, we're working towards signature program of coding and robotics, and we've developed partnerships such as with Channel 12. They came just over the break, and we got 15 of these dash bots donated to the school. You're going to get to play with those in a few minutes. And Valley-wide Lego teams and other competitions and contests and people who have partnered with us. So we're pretty proud of that. We're going to have 3 stations set up here. We'd like to invite you forward, all the board members, Dr. Lewis, to interact with these students, to experience more about how we use the technology to enhance the learning. We're going to kind of try to keep you on pace for moving through this, but because you're going to get pretty engaged, I think. But we can spend 3 or 4 minutes up here and let the kids and the teachers talk to you about how they're using these devices. So come on up, come on forward, and helpers, come on forward. Yeah, no, it's.
Last time we had to do something where I was put on the spot, I failed miserably.
Yeah, it's kind of blowing your mind already. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried to do this at work. Like, keep going, keep going. So wait, which one I which one right now? This guy right here? Okay, good.
And this one's for Phil, and this one's for me. Yeah, this one. Okay. So you're doing like an obstacle course? Yeah, so this is the coding competition I've been doing. We're going against 41 different countries.
Oh, yeah.
So missions are all a series of games. So they spend hours writing these codes, filming it, and then uploading it. Yeah, that one's good mission.
So wait, okay, so now, you just have to like, push a button.
What do you like about this?
Great. So what are you gonna add to this one? Can you make it one or Weird. Weird looks good. Let's do that. All board members.
Yeah, it's just kind of So this particular got we use for so as you can see it has so many different functions. So it's obstacle course and they determine which one is they try to keep the caterpillars.
I'm just gonna add to yours, okay?
Running around. So go to freestyling. You know how to just freestyling. So go to go.
For the middle school level, the coding Caterpillar we use with K through 2. Other grade levels can use it, and then the Dashbots are kind of across the board, depending on the student's ability. But we have a lot of them. This is just a small flavor of the devices that we've gathered over the years that we use. We have drones, we have 3D printers, we have a slew of other types of robots, and we're probably programming in about 7 to 10 different coding languages right now. So it's pretty exciting when we're starting. It's not where we want it to be. We want it to grow and we want it to get better, but you guys get a little bit better of an idea from this presentation of what we're doing with our signature program. So that was kind of fast and quick, but we want to open it up now if you have questions or comments, things that you want to know more about.
I have a question. Can you talk a little bit more about your partnership with Coding Academy?
Yeah, so in the Phoenix Union District, there's the Phoenix Coding Academy.
Yes.
So our partnership with them is mainly through collaboration. We have gone over to their schools, to their school to be a part of their demonstrations and to demonstrate some of our student learning over there. They've come over to our school to interact with us, but it's mostly through collaboration with, like, how do you use these tools? What's the best way to set up a makerspace? We're trying to set up a makerspace in our library. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Geyer, how many students have the opportunity to do the robotics? Is this for everyone? Is it selective? If so, how do students and families learn how to get into this?
We used part of our Prop 123 money to fund a full-time position, that's Donna Hartel, she's out here, to be our coding and robotics teacher. So we offer it as an additional special for all K through 8 students. So once a week they get coding and robotics. There's also after-school Lego club, there's an after-school coding and robotics club. So there's different opportunities. All of the students in the day, but then some of the students who are involved in the club.
Great, thank you.
I wanted to just make one comment, a reminder too. I think when we visited, that we talked about maybe having a coding day or something where Ms. Hartel and Mr. Knorr kind of share with teachers some of the things that they've learned and because the coding stuff is so available, but I think it's intimidating for
Can
people
be.
who don't know how to
Yeah.
use it.
That's right, yeah, and if they see it being used firsthand with students involved, they can maybe that helps them break into it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And thanks to all the students.
Yeah, nice job,
Thank you.
everyone.
And now go home and go to bed.
Okay, that brings us to 7B, adoption of the 2018, 2019, 2020, 2020, 21 academic school calendar.
Good evening, President Young, board members, doctors, cabinet members. Last year we came before you with a one-year proposal for our calendar, with the option of going back as a calendar committee and taking a look at some other things that came through and have further discussions. And so this year we reconvened as a calendar committee and we reviewed last year's work and had discussions about what are some of the things that we want to consider, what are proposals that we want to put together. And so what we did as a committee is we developed 2 different options to put out for survey input. And the one that is coming, the calendar option that's coming to you for approval tonight is option A, which is a continuation of our current calendar, where we adjusted by taking one of our PE days during the school year and adding it in the forefront so we could bring teachers back an extra day. It allowed for switching out the professional development day on Wednesday before winter break to that of Friday and having that Wednesday before winter break going full time. And so those were our 2 big adjustments. The other thing that was really important for us, for our families, was to make sure that the calendar was aligned to Phoenix unions so that our families were on the same calendar. Because if you have families that are in different schedules, that gets really, really difficult. So that was one of the pieces. And then as we looked at option B, some of the pieces that came through our work last year was, should we consider having school begin a little bit earlier? What about talking about doing some adjustment with Thanksgiving break? So those were some of the options that were included in option B. You'll see on this chart right here, there's a couple of asterisks, and what those asterisks simply mean is that is both those options are both option A and we're on option B. So we put together the calendars and we began to get them available for our community and for our staff through different online opportunities. We created a Survey Monkey that not only had the calendar options on it, but it also had feedback sections on it so people could provide some feedback. So it was placed on the website, it was put on Facebook, it was put on the school's websites, it was included in the Creighton Connection. So we really tried hard to get it out as much as we possibly could. And we had, through our survey results, we had 27% of parent and community provided feedback, and then we had 73% was from our staff. And from all the feedback and the voting that took place and opinions shared, 67% of those respondents selected calendar option A, which is the one that we are submitting for a proposal for tonight. The interesting piece is that through the feedback, there were two threads that came through the narrative feedback. One did pertain to calendar, another one was just an opportunity to provide feedback. But one was that July is too early to have kids come back. So, and then the other piece that came through is it's just a thread of the concern about the length of the school day, which doesn't actually feed into the calendar piece, but I just thought I would share that those were the two common themes that came through the feedback. So that is what I'm here to share with you tonight. You have in front of you the calendar if you have any questions regarding it. And then I would like to just share the opportunity for the board to have discussion. And put it to
I have a question on
Yes.
March 18th and October 15th, and what is the difference between those 2 days? One is professional development and one is being removed as professional development, but it's still a no school day.
Yeah, so that's the day that it was given back for the teachers in the beginning of the school year, so that the teachers will come back.
Okay, so they're gonna come back a day early,
Correct.
but they get this day back.
I don't think I understand that.
But they get to have this day off instead. Is that the idea?
You're talking about Monday, March 18th?
Yeah, you're talking about March 11th, right? And
No, March 18th.
oh, March 18th. Yeah.
Because one of the complaints I've heard for a long time, Creighton's one of the only districts that does this, is how you have that extra day after fall break and spring break.
Right.
It's a total pain for families. And I don't know if that came up in the committee or not at all.
Not in consensus to having it being completely removed, but taking and placing one of them and having it in the beginning of the school day. Hilda, can you help me out with that a little bit?
Yeah, we switched it with, the teachers used to come back on Wednesday, and now they come back on Tuesday, and that day was switched with that, because the teachers used to come back on Monday for a professional development day. The students were still off.
Right.
And so now that was switched with them now coming back on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, and they have also that day off, like the students, that Monday.
On March 18th.
On March 18th.
And that's what Phoenix Union does?
No,
No,
they
that
don't.
is where it is not aligned to Phoenix Union.
Okay,
But the
so it's not
majority, the majority of it is aligned to Phoenix Union, you know, our fall break.
The big
with-
breaks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the big breaks are aligned to them with the exception that we have that additional Monday.
We, I guess, recognize Good Friday, and they recognize Cesar Chavez Day.
Yes.
That's the only other exception. My question is, and I saw the survey, and I do appreciate, I talked to parents and they saw it too, so it got out to people, so
Good,
that's
good.
great.
I'm glad.
I just wonder, from a teacher standpoint, like if they would prefer to have that Wednesday before Thanksgiving off instead of an extra weird Monday, you know, because I hear that all the time, that teachers love having, and I don't know how they do it, not having that Wednesday off. Because a lot of schools do have that day off.
Yeah, I saw schools in California have Thanksgiving off because they're like, we're not getting any teaching done that week.
Right,
Yeah.
they do have the whole week off, yeah, that's true, yeah. I don't know if that was an option, you know, if that's something you guys discussed,
Well,
but
actually, it was part of discussion last year too, and didn't go any further than that discussion piece, but we certainly could take it back and revisit it if that's what the board.
I mean, I just thought it was odd that we're keeping that March 18th. It seems random, like if it wasn't already there, would we choose a day after spring break to take another day off? You know? It's hard for families to get off that extra Monday. And I would think teachers, I mean, throw it anywhere on the calendar, they just had a week off, I mean. Wouldn't another day, any other time be nice?
Well, and the pattern that has been in Creighton is those days that are used for full professional development days,
Right.
which then are aligned to the goals in which the schools are working on it. And it's hard as well to find that time to be able to provide that type of collaboration on a full day too. So that was the purpose of the intentions of those days, so.
Well, and I get the professional development day, I don't have any problem with that. It's more just
Just the additional.
weird extra day off for spring break. Now, not for the professional development reason, it's just because it's what we've done in the past. Right, am I understanding it correctly? I just think it's an odd.
It's odd, and I just wanted to concur as a parent. That's like sacrificed income that day.
Right, right. And I think I said this last year, is there a reason that we have to do 3 years? It just makes it easier probably for everyone to have.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with family planning.
Mhm.
You know, as families, because a lot of families have to place for vacations and stuff.
Right.
And so then when they have the multiple year, then they can go ahead and plan
Right,
for
right.
the future, so.
Would it be an option if this is something that, you know, the board feels strongly about, that they could send it back and say, what do you guys think about switching that Wednesday for that random Monday that's no longer professional development?
We could, in the motion, do that.
So say something like with flexibility for March 18th?
Being changed to professional development.
As a teacher who works in a district where we get that Wednesday off, I love it. And the year before that, we actually got the whole week off, and that was even better. It was amazing, and it meant for a longer school year for me, that having more breaks in between is really nice. So I can appreciate Ms. McSheffrey's viewpoint, and especially from a parent's point of view, who used to have to, before my children were driving themselves everywhere, you know, like, I had to put together those weird schedules too, so it's
And
difficult.
if they do have a Phoenix Union kid, they're gonna have to come back early, like they, you know, because Phoenix Union doesn't have that day off, so.
If the motion mentions changing that weird Monday
We can amend
in
it.
March.
If it's something that the staff wants, correct? Like you could put it back out there in another survey?
Yeah, maybe take it back to the committee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Peterson, can you think of any reason why a modified motion tonight would be difficult? And/or do you like what you're hearing as far as take it back and work on it some more? Because I know this is a never-ending.
It's never ending, and we're not gonna ever have
Conversation.
100% consensus, not even 50%. It is the board's
It's the board's
opportunity
prerogative.
to
But my
make that
question is to
adjustment.
you, since you're hosting the conversation,
Right.
what are the repercussions if the board votes an amended calendar by the one-day trade-off? What's the hardship to the committee?
I think that it's just a matter of just adjusting the calendar. I don't think that there's a necessary hardship. I think it's just a different viewpoint.
Madam President, if I could just add one thing. Our classified employees would be a consideration that might have a monetary perspective to it. So that's something else that we'd want to look at if it's a day that the district is entirely closed, or we bring our other staff in, or are we providing an additional holiday?
My last comment on this will be, we've seen these battles since when I was a teacher, and like, to me, it's just opening up another can of worms. And even if I'm not personally like excited about one day, and I already had a different conversation on Wednesdays, but I would recommend that the board just approve something today, not send something back and then look at it again. It's just be decisive. This is what it is.
Dr. Lugo, did you have a comment?
I think the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving would be well received, or ending the school year a day early would also be well received. I would just caution the board on making an amendment without completely vetting it through what Mr. Mann was alluding to. Not so much the teacher preference or the personnel preference, because I think they're all going to be, yahoo, that's a good idea. The part that we want to thoroughly vet is that we don't want to negatively impact somebody's pay without making sure that we've looked at all aspects.
I move the governing board adopt the academic school calendar draft A for the 2018-19 and adopt the same calendar structure for 2019-2020, 2021 school years.
I second.
It's been moved in second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Okay, that brings us down to general. A, approval of governing board representatives. These are the representatives for the legislative liaison and the ASBA network representative. Do we have any motions for the legislative liaison?
I'd like to nominate Ms. McSheffrey for legislative liaison. She has her ear attuned to what's happening. She has specific relationships with legislators, and I think she is terrific at sharing the happenings, as she already did this evening, just legislative pieces.
I second.
Second,
I would accept it, yes.
seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes.
For representative as well.
Yes, the ASBA, Arizona School Board Association Network representative. Do we have any questions?
What does that mean?
It's, we nominate somebody or they volunteer every year, and I believe they're supposed to be going to, like, be the voice at ASBA,
I don't know, because I know that they asked, like, who's the representative, I'm not sure exactly what.
but then we, you know, like when we vote for,
But see, we still have another,
Right.
election, because not all the time is everybody able to attend the delegate assemblies,
right,
and stuff, so,
Yeah, I think it's
I
a
mean-
dedicated person. The way we've used it is a dedicated person to pay attention to the happenings of our association that we pay good money to be members of. Because they send us information about changing bylaws because one school board out of 227 has their druthers. So I think it's mostly for that, but that's how I've kind of related to that role. I personally am not interested.
I don't think if we didn't choose somebody, I don't think it would really make a big difference, but it's up to you guys.
Well, do we currently have someone? I'm embarrassed to ask, but I hope it's not me.
I don't know, I'd have to look at last year's, because I did choose somebody.
Yeah.
I believe I was
I
one
think it
last
was
year.
Donna.
Yes. Is anyone interested?
You know, I would be, but I'm not gonna be able to take, I'm starting a new job, I'm not gonna be able to take Monday through Friday off to go to meetings and things like that.
Right, usually.
Donna's like
I'm
school
not
board
gonna be
member
able
of
to
the
go.
century. I nominate Donna.
I second.
There's all in favor. It's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank y'all. I owe you one. Okay, it brings us down to future agenda items.
I would just like to make a comment. I would like to see the middle school conversation moved up to February 6th, if at all possible. That's been on.
I don't think we'll be ready for middle school with the BPA presentation we could.
Okay.
Yeah, the BPA presentation
Okay.
is the 20th. I know that might not be a good time for it.
It's listed on the 6th already.
Oh, did we move it already?
Remember you had already.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, I must have an old copy.
Well,
I
it's
have
the printed,
Oh, I'm looking at the printed.
But
I'm
the-
sorry, Abby.
The one
Okay,
on
I
White
suggested
House.
that as a switch, so that's been moved up, but
Okay. I would like to
Nevertheless.
make middle school conversations urgent when possible.
Is this a conversation about designating a freestanding middle school? Just so I'm clear on that, that's what we're talking about?
I think, no, for me, it's more about talking about what we're doing in math, what we're doing at BPA specifically, and how that compares to the rest of the district, specifically math and programs that are offered, and is it equitable?
So the Biltmore presentation now scheduled for the 6th will include some survey results and some discussions that the new principal this year is beginning to have with staff and parents about those very factors, and I know there's a survey out that addresses much of that, so that would be inclusive in the Biltmore presentation. So the middle school presentation or conversation, we also thought about it maybe living in our board study session on Saturday with the innovation teams, which could then trickle into a continued conversation. My recommendation would be, let's stir it up a little on Saturday in February, and then decide to what degree to agendize middle school, bigger, larger, after the Biltmore prep presentation and after the study session. That's my recommendation at this stage. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.